Hey Angelo,
Hello.
I I don't have a particular question. I had several, but they all got answered because of the conversations you've been having with everybody. Because I was going to talk about shame, and then someone talked about shame. Then I was going to talk about the fear barriers. Someone's talking about the fear barriers. So, thank you everybody for asking my questions. Um, what I can say that's coming up for me is there's nowhere to hide, and sorry, I think I accidentally muted myself. Um, I was saying that it feels like there's nowhere to hide. And it also feels like I desperately want to sometimes. And if I stay with that, it feels like I'm going to crawl out of my skin. And that's where the distractions come in real handy because, taking that little hit of the mind pipe, as you call it, can apparently feel like there's a temporary relief, but only feels like it amps things up. And then I'm back to there's no place to hide. There's nothing to hide. So that's what I wanted to say. I don't think I have a particular question.
You have anything to say, Kogen?
I would say that it was lovely that you switched off your camera just about the time when you said there's nowhere to hide, which was kind of like maybe a little bit the sort of mechanism that all of us have, right? Like, something about being seen or it feels sometimes threatening or something. But yeah, it's really good that you have this clarity of seeing the relationship between distraction, kind of seeking out, reaching out for distraction, and kind of this feeling. And sometimes it might feel like, oh, there's just like a hard work, right? Like staying in this place where it's kind of squirmy and kind of it's the pathway is through just being with those sensations. But sometimes, even if you're like tired, because when we are in the right mood and meditative sort of state, it's easy to stay with whatever. But in our daily life, there's so many, little situations and opportunities for distraction. um but it's, sometimes with like this decision almost being made, like, oh, I just can't be bothered with like trying to kind of do this work, and I choose something else, right? But it's like almost like with going to the gym. I don't know, maybe some people are sporty, they don't have this problem, but people who are I used to be a musician, so sport wasn't my thing. So going to the gym, it feels like, oh man, like, do I have to go? I know not that I go, but like doing exercise. Um but as soon as you start, it suddenly there's just flow, right? Like it just kind of, weird resistance. So even if you feel like, oh, like almost you want to like turn yourself blind to it and choose something else, just make a deal with it and say, okay, I'll stay with it for a limited amount of time, right? And you said like, okay, I'll just stay with this with this feeling for like three 3 minutes, right? And you just go into it, and sometimes it's just, it's just a blossoming of something. It's like a flower opening, and you just end up kind of being with it as long as it needs, and it's then it just unfolds itself, and you don't need to like avoid it or distract yourself for the rest of the day or something. Yeah, that's what came to my mind.
Hmm.
Yeah. Go
Sorry,
ahead.
go
Go
ahead.
ahead.
I was going to say it's funny that you mentioned the gym because I think when I'm actually engaged in physical activity is the one time when it's easy to stay with sensations because it feels like I'm actually there with it, especially intense physical activity. Um, Other times when, I just have time on my hands, I just feel like it's literally the devil's workshop and the squirminess comes back. And then there's like, well, there really is not. And then the shame thing like we were talking about with Matt, that's very prevalent, the need to be seen. One thing that came up, it's kind of been ongoing since the last retreat that we had, the need to be seen and the need to like feel ashamed of wanting to be seen is the same thing. There's no doesn't seem to be. There's a difference there. The sensation is the same. So that comes up, and then there's like, oh, there's just, again, like the shadow, it just sometimes feels endless.
I was going to say the bit about wanting validation and then judging yourself for wanting validation, or maybe wishing you didn't want like that's that push pull of the mind. It's really good to get acclimatized, or to at least get familiar with that experience, because that's really how desire and aversion works. It's like they're just so tied together, and the closer we see it, the more we realize it's just kind of a fool's game. Like we can push or pull on experiences. We can convince ourselves that I really want that and I really don't want that. But the more we sort of buy into those really mental processes, the more we're just kind of awash with being pushed, feeling like we're pushed around. So it's not like we actually desire. The weird thing is, it's not like we actually desire something, and it's not like we actually have an aversion to something. We're identifying with the energetics of it. We're identifying with it. That's why the funny thing about so many aspects of this process is, when identity drops, nothing else has to change. Nothing has to change. There doesn't have to be no thought suddenly. There doesn't have to be no distraction suddenly. None of that has to change at all. The texture of life can be exactly the same, and there's literally no suffering, no doubt, or very, very infrequent doubt thought, maybe, because it's the buy-in that's getting, especially when it comes to desire and aversion, desire and ill will, however you want to say it, but pushing and pulling on experiences. It's the buy-in that we actually believe it. It feels like, it's like, I don't know, if something starts running, the dog just chases it. It has that instinct. We almost have an instinct to chase our own thoughts, to chase our own quote unquote desires and aversions, but none of that's even happening. If you eat something, you just ate something. That's what happened. If you smile at someone, you smiled at someone. If you blush because someone noticed you, that's just what happened. There's nothing behind that. And there's nothing in front of it. And there's no one that's attached to it. Does that make sense? So it's our buy-in to that process, to the mental process that says, I desire this, I don't want this, I do want that, that I need this, I need less of that. I need things to ultimately, I need things to be the way I think they could be. The buy-in to that. That's just a thought process. That's innocent. The thought can be there. It's the buy-in, right? Which is very strange, because if you look for the buy-in, you won't find it. You won't find the buy-in, and you won't find the one buying in. But looking for it is hugely valuable. Hugely valuable. At some point, it's like, damn, what? All of this suffering was for nothing. There's no reason. There's no need to take a position in reference to anything. There's no need to hide. There's no way to hide. Nothing could be hidden. It's very strange, but there's ultimately just clarity here for you.
Yeah.
Does that vibe at all?
Yeah, totally vibes.
Yeah.
Totally vibes. Thank you.
Sure. Okay. Let's go to Lori.
Hi.
Hello.
Hi. I was at the AOL retreat, and one of the things that was clear there was, for me, just diving into sensation was where it was at. And, spending time like deepening into that. And what I found is that when I did get deep into sensation, it was like, it's like taking an animal to the vet, putting them in the little carrier. They know where they're going, they don't want to go there. And so there was like this extreme like pushback, organ rejection. And so I could see that, and it was so deep that it was hard to get back to it. Kogen mentioned going to the gym. And so this movement has happened in different ways, and so it was kind of long stretches before I could go back to it again, and then it would reappear. And then most recently, just a couple days ago, I thought, okay, well, it's just simple. And I looked at the sensations that were kind of pushing away from that, and got a little bit of an opening, and looked at I guess looked at silence, which was the strongest sensation at that moment. And, just inquired, like, is there any place it's not? And it like folded into itself and kind of started it seemed like it started to turn inside out. And then again, the same thing came up of like, no, not this. So this has happened, many times along this journey in these different ways, like an unwinding of something happens and it's like, no. So it also happens to like very neatly push against this other system of there was a lot of control that has shed, but there's kind of a twin to it, which is like this resistance, like so using Kogen's example, just going to the gym, like that would have been my thing. I could willfully, I could do that and get it done. And so now there's like the counter of it. If I willfully, if I do that in that way, there's this story that says, oh, that's control. You can't do that. So it's almost like control as rebellion against control. So I'm seeing that in different ways, but this is one that's showing up for me, and just wanted to kind of out that and see if there's a perspective that but and the other thing is like this recognition that I can't possibly do anything, and yet just like this paradox of like I there's a leaning in to it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I just have a couple of quick comments and then we'll turn you over to Kogen, but just a couple things. One is this is very normal. So this is rather typical at this stage of things. And you can't, of course, wave your magic wand and stop it from happening. There's going to be a degree of that. Just, to personify it in one way, I could say the ego wants to feel better, of course. So when you're able to find an avenue where you just, I just drop right into the senses and it's just so peaceful and beautiful and nothing, no thoughts, mind calms down and all that. That's great for a little while. But at some point, that ego mechanism, the mind mechanism that wants to grab your attention, it really gets charged. It's like, wait a minute, hold on. What happens to me? Me. This is all about me. What happens to me? Where am I going to go? How do I find my space? How do I get back here to regroup? And often it starts telling stories. So that's normal. It's going to happen for a while. It will subside more and more, generally speaking. So that's one thing I want to tell you. And the other thing I want to tell you is, if you're curious, in these times when it's like, okay, there's the immersion into the senses, and then it starts feeling like some resistance, something saying no to it, or it's like, no, not there, don't go there. Just relax your body, widen your aperture of attention, and just say, okay, well, this is happening. That's okay that it's happening. Let's look at what's actually happening. So I would suggest you could just look into each sense field and go, where is the no here? Where is the thing that's actually saying no? And look and feel. And the more you realize, I think the more the body mind realizes that you'll never find a no in a sensation. You'll never find a no in a sound. You'll never find a no in the forms and colors. You just won't. You won't find a no in a taste. But just looking and seeing, is it here? Is it here? Is it here? It can really unload that polarity to where something just starts to get it. That it's like, oh, actually, no, it's just fine being here. This is the only place I've ever been, the only place I ever could be. It's the only game in town, really. And then the inversion of the mind, the way the mind wants to turn back on itself, it'll just subside over time. But it can take some time. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, just to say thank you. That's great, because I look at the body like, where's the grip, and I'm interpreting it as that's the no there that could release, so that's an interpretation.
Exactly. And that's what we do. We associate a certain sensation or a pattern of sensations with a very sort of intense story. But if you really look, you're going to find there's actually no association. There's nothing linking those together at all. But the looking is critical, and it takes some time.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Kogen, you got anything?
I mean, I was just thinking about just trying to see Lori. I'm
Lori,
not
can you
that.
say hi real quick?
Hi. Hi, Kogen. How are you?
Okay, thank you. That's great. Yeah, so I mean, that's maybe not specifically actually to you, but overall, many people listen to those things. So there's also sometimes if there's like a clear sort of sense of, if we go to the body sensation and there's this kind of response is like, it's not safe here. Sometimes the sort of TRE exercises can be helpful in, again, it might be not your case, but it can be useful, the sort of trembling, giving it a go for a little bit longer stretch than for any, there can be restlessness based sort of difficulty in being a sensation. There can be a little bit different tones, but I think TRE is working on all those levels, and it's helping to kind of find this like pure equanimity in the flow of sensation itself, and can be helpful. And second thing, yeah, I mean, I guess I just wanted to kind of speak to this thing that you said, like, there's this, in past you were kind of driven person, and you could get things done, and then now you're kind of like, oh, wait a minute, that's a will, and it's kind of like, I think the area of the non-doership is one of those that can be a little bit like, especially if you're like in a gray zone, right? Like you don't feel necessarily the same sort of juice of will kind of rushing through your day-to-day life, but at the same time, you don't feel kind of maybe fully like it's just all unfolding. Then it can be kind of like a little bit confusing, but I think it's, I sometimes use this example. There was this saying, I was born in the People's Republic of Poland during, it was still communist time, and there was this kind of saying that they said, if you think it, don't say it. If you say it, don't write it down. If you write it down, don't sign your name. If you sign your name, don't be surprised. It was about the, kind of like KGB and all of that. But the point is, like, if you decide doing something, don't kind of blame yourself for doing something, out of that feels like, that there was a clear sort of directionality in it, because in a way it's non-doership also sometimes means that you are very particular about what or not you, but I mean, there is a very particular sort of peakiness in the moment that insists on something and goes for it full on. And it's totally fine, right? So it's not like adding another layer of like, oh, I shouldn't be this kind of doing that because who is there to do it? Rather, it's just like there's natural unfoldment, and as Angela was saying before, it's like, there's not this sort of buy-in into any of that. If something unfolds, or if even if you feel strongly you want to do something, then this movement is perfectly okay too. So it might be not your problem at all, but because you mentioned this part of like, I shouldn't be, like in this game, the shoulds and shouldn'ts are the kind of troublemakers. So that's why I kind of decided to respond to that.
Yeah, thanks, Kogen. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I'll piggyback on that. And it reminded me of something someone else said earlier, and I forgot to throw this element in, but it's essentially what Kogen just said. I'll just say it a slightly different way. Is it can be surprising to people that even once the sense of agency drops away, you can still have habits that would be considered like maybe not the best habit. Like it can definitely happen. And that's actually part and parcel of agency dropping away when you realize, like, I don't have a choice what this body mind does. There's no one that has that choice. It's just going to do what it's going to do. But the difference is you're on board with it in some strange way. Like even if it's not the healthiest thing to be doing, it's like, oh, well, this is what's happening. So it's kind of becomes a little bit more whimsical, the freaking universe doesn't hang in the balance of whether you eat another piece of cake or not. It just doesn't fucking matter. It's just what's happening, and there's no control. So that can be a surprising aspect of deep realization to people.
Yeah.
And generally like really distracting, quote unquote, bad habits, things, they generally do fall away actually, but not on your terms at all. You don't have that choice. They generally do, because your tendency to avoid and distract does kind of subside, but it doesn't mean that every habituated pattern just stops immediately. That's just not going to happen. These body minds are very complex. So.
Right. Yeah. Perfect. Thanks.
You're welcome. Great question. Okay. I think we're going to go to Bob.
Shocking shit. Wow. Every conversation has been amazing. And the energy, Jesus.
First of all, can we talk about, is that a denim couch?
Yes.
Oh, that's sweet.
Yeah, we used to have cats and they would scratch the furniture, so we got something that wasn't too great. Don't have the cats anymore, but still have the denim
Cool.
stuff. First, the Sasha last interview, it's like the demon thing, that scared the shit out of me. Not the demons per se, but just like, I'm gonna have no idea what the existential terror is gonna look like, and that just freaks me out. And it's like, yeah. What's also freaking me out is the possibility of not having to do anything. I mean, I've been striving to change this or that or the other thing about myself, or find a better job, or a more satisfying job. And it's just like, shit, there might be nothing to do. And that just freaks me out. It's just like very unsettling. And then today, I was meditating early to, well, listen to a video you put out in the last month or so. And it's just sitting there looking at a chair across the room, some other stuff, listening to the cat fountain make the furnace kick in. And it's just like, shit, my thoughts aren't separate from the cushion or anything either. It's all one thing. And then there's like this still that little thing of, but there's still me and everything else, except for there might not be me. And I was thinking back to the first Sasha interview you put up, which was like the 8-minute one from the Q&A session a year ago. And it's like, so your question, which was like, well, who believes that? Like, who believes there's me to actually do anything? I don't know. I guess I don't even have a question aside from,
That's it, man. That's where the money is. Like, so the way you just demonstrated inquiry is perfect. Trying to find the one who actually believes it. Not the resistance to the story or the narratives. All that stuff can go on, but it's like, well, who's buying into it? Is there anything or anyone, you know?
I guess that was it.
Kogen probably has some words of wisdom as well.
No, I mean, I think Bob's words of wisdom were pretty plenty, but it's a matter of like staying with it, right? Like you say, oh, but there's still me in all of it, right? But then, okay, so where do I specifically find it? And kind of right now looking clearly, right? Where is it that what do I reference? And kind of staying with this clear and simple looking, seeing, just, okay, now it seems, but it's one thought, right? Like outside of this one thought, there's me in everything, just going directly into sensations, the cat fountain sound, or the touch of denim on the couch, right? And where is it? And just staying with this kind of open inquiry that you know everything is possible in a way.
Yeah, I really like the inquiry of when you do like something with physical contact, you touch like the denim, as Kogen was mentioning. Where is that? Where is that? Right? Because it's one of those things that we're so sure we know. Oh, it's right there. Well, what is there? You know, They go right back to that sensation and just ask, well, where is this actually? Maybe close your eyes. Where is that? There's so much that wants to just jump up and say, oh, I know where that is. I know where that is. So there's a bunch of thoughts, like a bunch of stuff you learned, but where is that? Is there a where there at all? You know, like one sensation can take you so deep into this presence. It can unbind so much. So we're really literally like standing on a whale fishing for minnows a lot of the time. The sensation field is so vibrant and rich when we've gotten to ourselves to that place where it's become salient, juicy, when we feel it. You know, sometimes it's maybe too early. The mind is just too busy all the time. It's just too analytical. You know, it's hard to get into direct contact with things and sensations and sounds. But once you can, it gets very, very simple. The inquiry gets very simple. Yeah, as Kogen described.
All right, thank you.
Welcome. Okay, Yvonne.
Hi, hello.
Hello.
I don't know what my question is. I think I just need to share. I think I might have mentioned it before, but at the moment I'm awaiting for a heart bypass, which could happen in 2 months' time, or no date yet, because I'm awaiting still on the National Health. But as it's getting closer, my body's changing. And from being able to walk 2 miles, now I can't walk anything like that anymore. There's about a quarter of this person's abilities left. And I wake up in the morning and don't feel good. And then the thoughts go, oh, fuck, of course, I've got 2 heart valves that are not working. That's why I feel like this. And then I let the thought go and just become present. And it's just a matter of, trusting, no matter what. And when people say, oh, you're going to be okay, you know, our operation's been done so many times, and you're going to be okay, you're going to feel better. But I know that, well, I don't know. I don't know anything. I don't know anything. And so therefore, I don't have, even before this heart problem, I had lost my future, that I don't have a faith in. I mean, I don't have a future. I know, though. I don't know. I'm only here. This is that what there is here. And it's just being with the sensations, and the sensations are quite horrible. And being with them, and if I was to think about when I now know what's going to happen in the operation, all the things they're going to do, which is, if I don't think about it, it's like I'm going to be tortured or something. You know, the mind just freaks out. So obviously I can't, I do, but I become present. So I'm practicing presence the whole time. And when I meditate, I used to meditate at the same time, the same place. Now I don't meditate always, because I think, why am I meditating? But then when I do, I move out. I'm in the body feeling, and then I move out of the body, and it's just being with it all. It's just learning this new way of living, and without knowing that I don't know what's going to happen. I might feel better later. I might not. I don't know. When everybody says I will, I don't know. And it's being with that. It's being with the complete unknown and being with trust that even if I die, it just is. I don't know. I just wanted to share because it's hard to share it. It's not easy to explain it. Yeah. So it's not really a question. It's just a sharing. And oh, yeah. Just
I think it's inspiring, you know. Maybe we're all going to be there at some point in some way, you know, having very serious health challenges or even inevitable death, you know, for all of us at some point. So
yes.
to be able to approach that with this kind of equanimity, realize that you never had a future anyway, and to just be with all of it, including the sensations. I will say it's interesting that we can find a surprising amount of like pressure just from social expectations or what we know other people probably perceive this as, that we almost have to mitigate it for them a little bit sometimes, you know.
Yeah.
They
Yes.
want to tell you it's going to be better,
Yeah.
and you might want to say doesn't have to be, it doesn't matter what it is, you know. But
Yeah.
you know, we don't want to disillusion them about their own health as well, and stuff like that can
Yeah.
strangely come into play. But you feel like you're in a very good equanimous place to me, and I think that's great.
Thank you. It's
None of
nice
us
to
Yeah, none of us know how long we have, right? It's like all we
No.
have is this slice of eternity right now. This is all we have.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's all there is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'd like to hear from Kogen. Kogen's done some work in hospice and stuff too.
Yeah, no, I mean, first of all, I would like to just say thank you for sharing. You know, it was really beautiful. And even if you could say just something, then I would see your face. It would be nicer for me to talk because I see Angelo. He's great too. But
yes, I'm here.
Yeah,
Hello.
thank you. I'm a kind of Zoom newbie. So no, it was really wonderful sharing, and that's the bottom line with Angelo said. I would just also kind of emphasize that you said like you're just in this place of total unknown, and you know that's where we all are, right? That's exactly, you know, I might go before you, right? I mean there's not knowing of anything, but I want to also share that. You know, it might sound kind of funny a little bit for me to kind of bring my little issues, but I was going to share that there is a profound invitation in loss of this sort of surrendering movement. It's truly remarkable. I had like several knee surgeries. I won't be able to ever run or hike that I always loved, and you know, it is what it is. But then a couple of years ago, when the pandemic started, I got also long COVID, and I was in bed for multiple months in a row. I'm still not back to my old baseline. I'm better, but this time when I was in bed and I didn't know how long it will last, there was no information about long COVID. Some people were reporting, hey, I'm already like 12 months in. You know, so I was just also in this place of truly losing my capacities. I was not able to go for like a 10 minutes walk at all, like not possible. And I used to go for hikes of, you know, several hours a day. So I was in this place of truly just being severely limited in a way, and this kind of surrendering movement, you know, like you can almost like tune into, like it's sometimes, I mean, maybe it's another digression, like during retreats, when I was doing retreats, like a longer retreats, sometimes when I was doing day of fasting, kind of like there's this practice of like, you know, just not eating for the day during the kind of multiple day retreat. And then when everybody eats and you are there kind of with your empty plates, just sitting there, there is something beautiful about this kind of way of others can do it and I rejoice in it, and I will be in this place of just not being able to do it right now, and there's this kind of really heart openness and this sort of real surrendering moment, and it was during the, I don't know, like, you know, set any expectations or anything, but really this sort of further realization that I had into kind of more no self thing happened during when I was had long COVID, and I was just really debilitated in all other ways, just because I couldn't do what I always did, and some of us just need sometimes this universe showing you see, you know, you did great, you were in control, but now you are in my hands, and now you can't go for a walk. Now you feel tired because your heart is not working. Now you have to just be on those terms, and you just completely let go into it. And there's a beauty in it. It's a lesson that sometimes is more beautiful than anything in life. Loss is underrated. So congratulations. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, both of you. That was beautiful. Okay. Let's go to Sebastian.
Hello. Yeah, beautiful, very touching to hear that. My question is very much more ordinary. But first, thank you for the retreat. New Year's retreat was beautiful. I was actually doing it in Costa Rica. I'm still in Central America. I got in touch after the retreat with someone from the retreat, and they told me that I should get in touch with Kogen. I was writing back, who's Kogen, never heard back. So it's kind of interesting to see him here. Just curious if he is in Costa Rica or what he was doing there. And maybe my question is coming a bit from, there's a big spiritual community here, and I met some interesting people, but somehow I don't think most of them are really like interested in the same thing. Like, for me, this somehow started with seeing that I don't exist, and there's no way in trying to make this better for me somehow. And still those forces are in me and playing parts in this, in the, some is gone, but there's still stuff of this left. And that's what I can see in most of all the people I meet. Like, it's not about gaining something anymore, and what I kind of want is lose it all, or if that even makes sense. And yeah, I was hoping to meet some people around Central America to connect regarding that, and that doesn't seem to be the case, but maybe it's also not necessary. And yeah, maybe you guys have something to say towards that.
Kogen, you want to start?
So I'm not sure if I heard you right, but I was in Puerto Rico during the retreat, so I wasn't in Costa Rica. And yeah, I was just kind of, I'm a little bit like a kind of in Japanese they call it unsui, which is like a water cloud monk, which is like you just kind of move from place to place without being in one particular location. But yeah, I mean, you know, I think it's you know, I think it's good to have a clarity. You know, not every single thing that is being offered that is, you know, talks about awakening, or, you know, those are terms those are all words, right? It's all salad, kind of sound salad in a way that we arrange them in you know, this way or that way. So not every teaching speaks about the same thing, even if they use the same words. So it's, you know, it's great that you have this clarity. What is of deep interest to you? What is truly calling you in this process, which is just, you know, seeing what's true and what's unreal, right? Like, not, I mean, this dualism also is getting transcended in the end, but kind of just, you know, looking deeply what's, you know, what's true, and what's, you know, what are our assumptions about ourselves, and just, you know, investigating that. And for you know, it is a blessing to have, like, a, you know, we are now in this gathering, in this group, and we have each other. Many of us live in different locations. So I'll just throw a plug. There's this, oh, I don't know if I should do it. Anyway, maybe it's not a public announcement yet, but maybe there will be ways of connecting within this also, our community. Maybe there will be a ways of connecting with people in your geographical areas too. So, you know, Dharma friends are true treasure, like in the sort of Dharma, like a Buddhist path. Sometimes there's this kind of saying, a little bit over the top, but it's saying that sitting one retreat with another person is a stronger affinity than marriage for 3 years. So in a way, you know, we can be helpful, we can reflect to each other, but at the end of the day, it is a lonely path. It is a sort of movement, kind of, you know, of just you and kind of looking directly and your own direct experience. So those two, you know, they can be like two wings of one bird, that it kind of, you know, works very well, that in a way you have this true independence, or like autonomy, and kind of clear looking that you trust more than whatever, you know, someone could say to you, but at the same time, you know, being able to get advice from someone, or just, you know, have a conversation with a peer. This is also you know, pretty you know, great and useful. So I think, you know, as long as there's certain balance within those two, it's great. So that's all that came to me when you spoke.
Thank you.
Yeah. So what he's referring to is that a very nice few guys are building a platform that basically you can use to find other people that are interested in Simply Always Awake stuff, books and retreats and whatever. You'd be able to geolocate them in the world and get like email addresses of people. We put out one version of it just to my members online, but they're still working out the wrinkles, and pretty soon we'll have the more robust version that we can use. But some people did already connect with people, but I think over time you'll in a place like Costa Rica, you'll definitely find other people. Like, you know, unless you're in a really rural place, I think with time this will connect a lot of people to those that might be in their area, especially in bigger cities. So that will be coming out. Keep an eye on it, but it will always be announced to the members first. The other thing I just thought to say is, similar to what Kogen said, is there are some areas of value in this process of having other people, Dharma brothers and sisters and so forth. One of them is having the kind of relationship you would have with a like a sort of non-dual facilitator, teacher, guide, whatever you want to call it, where the whole point of the relationship is to just directly address your own yearning for truth, and the unfolding process. It's a very beautiful thing, because it's like it's such a rare relationship, you know, because there's, you know, if that person is authentic, which, you know, I'm careful who I refer people to, but yeah, if they're authentic, they won't add anything to it. There shouldn't be any agendas other than really just your ability to directly address and confront any identity structures, and address anything that the shadow is sort of hiding, and all of those aspects that come into play. That's a very valuable interaction with another person, a realized person. The other is, Kogen did mention, is, you know, retreats. It's actually really valuable, especially in silent retreats, to just have a group that will support you and you support the group in a process like that. And man, it took me Kogen probably knows a lot about this because he's done so many sessions and all that, but I mean, it took me a long time to really appreciate the depth of value there. And it's because so much of what humans do when they interact with one another is about complicity, even nonverbal communication. Like, it's going on all the time. And that's why it's so easy to go unconscious around other people. But when you create a sort of artificial environment where the purpose is to not do that, not go into complicity, not to have all these other agendas like distraction and gossip and drama and all that. And actually our purpose is to sit and investigate our true nature together. And the artificial construct is, and we're going to do it silently. So then you learn a very different thing. You learn like, wow, first of all, I can be around other people without having to try to do something, impress something upon them, try to get something from them. Like it's kind of taken out of the equation for the most part in that structure. So you learn that, and you learn the discomfort that comes with that. And then you get through the discomfort and you learn the peace that can be there being around other people when you're not engaging in the usual. So it's really a pattern interrupt. It's a big reset. So it's really great to do it online, but in person, I would say it's even better. There are many ways to do that. Of course, many different types of retreats you can find in person, from very cheap to free to, paid retreats and so forth. But so those are valuable. Casual interactions with Dharma brothers and sisters can also be valuable. But it can be a little tricky too, because that's when the other things start to come into play. People with different kinds of agendas come into these groups, and there's dominant personalities in different groups and all that. So I would say in that case, like probably the best thing to do is have a structure and a purpose to the group. If you meet regularly, structure and purpose, like what are we actually meeting for? What are we trying to do here? Are we meeting to sit in silence? Are we meeting to, vulnerably share our challenges while working through emotion? Or what are we really trying to do here? Because I find that when humans don't communicate the purpose of the communication itself, they will default to things that are at least partially unconscious. So that's all I would suggest, is if you get into groups with people in this, look, you don't have to impose that upon the group, but look for a group that's already has some kind of point that is an agreed upon point of the group. Or if you form one, do it mindfully. So that's all I have to add.
All right. Thank you, guys.
Yeah. Thank you. Enjoy that falling away. All right. We have John.
Hello. This is my
Hey.
first time meeting you, and I wrote to you just a little while ago and have gotten involved with Chris Guimond, pardon me,
Cool.
and with TRE.
One sec. Okay.
Okay. And so I've been looking for kind of how to get to the end of the path for a long time. And when I found your work, I thought, finally, there's somebody who's pointing out to the no self, which at least theoretically I understand is the end of the non-duality path, although you make it clear that, of course, nothing ends, right? But someone ends. And so as I've begun to work, and Chris has sent me videos to watch, and I've watched a whole bunch of my own in the last couple of weeks on the no self. I noticed that there's a collapse of awareness or self and arising sensation, especially around sound. I noticed that very well. That's really how I learned to meditate, was listening to the birds sing outside a retreat center long, long ago. Pardon me. But I thought that would, when that collapse happened, that would mean the collapse of a self and what I see is that there's still plenty of mind chatter, and there is even some very strong aversion or attraction arising. And so my mind is a bit confused about all that. And I just wanted to just bring that up and ask about it. I'm also having real trouble with, okay, when I feel sensation, it always feels like it's happening close in here. I don't know how else to describe that. So I wanted to bring those questions to you face to face, because I thought, wow, this is a rare opportunity. Let's do it.
Yeah. Yeah. Hey, Kogen, do you want to offer something, or you want me to start, or?
Either way is fine. I mean, I can go ahead, and you can say more later. So John, could you say something a little bit? I'm sorry, again.
Sure, no, it's okay. I know this is
great.
confusing on Zoom. Yeah.
Yes. So yeah, I think I don't want to like make it too sort of analytical, but one of the models that some people find helpful, you might not. There's the whole fetter model, right? And it kind of speaks of the sort of different things falling away, different sort of layers of kind of fabrication falling away, or patterns of perceptual filters. So it's definitely not the case that the sort of non-dual realization, which means the kind of when you see that the kind of knowingness is synonymous with sounds, sights, and sensations without anything being apart from it, collecting it. This, I mean, in the manner how also Angelo is speaking, is not necessarily the no self realization, which kind of comes further. But I think if your intuition is or perception is that there's still quite a bit of push and pull, the kind of aversion and desire, this could be the next area to kind of look at. The sort of equanimity. Angelo has all the playlist on equanimity. And just working more with, because there are certain, it's like a house of cards that has like a few main cards that hold it, right? And in a way it's kind of like you peel them, and sometimes you zoom in to kind of just address one of them at a time, because it's more potent, it's more kind of singular about like, okay, just go into the sort of nature of sensations and sounds, and kind of work with the non-dualistic sort of nature of them. But but if you feel like that's more and more clarifying for you, but yet you see the kind of reactivity, you can just work directly with that. And I think the video that Angelo speaks with Kevin Chanelek is pretty good about the I think it's fourth and fifth feathers, which are the kind of push and pull reactivity, basically.
Yeah,
right?
I've watched some of them and read all of Kevin's outlines, but yeah, I haven't done all of it yet.
Yeah. And also generally, what I would just say, it's like Adyashanti had this phrase that he used all the time, that is, it's always being, always becoming, right? That I think you have a good conceptual framework. It sounds about it, that it's truly, there is certain finality to certain arc, certain trajectory of path, but at the same time, it's surprising how every expectation that we put on, it could be something we read. If we have traditional background, we read what's arhathood, what's what's this, what's that, and we kind of have set certain expectations on how things should look like, and usually those kind of just only get into the way. And I think it's a very wonderful and only proper attitude to just see whatever is still not yet liberated, and kind of just look into it, like whatever is calling, right? Like there's still some push and pull. You go into it and you kind of examine the mechanism of it and everything. But yeah, at the same time, the sort of embodiment and this whole aspect is never ending. So it's yeah, definitely the kind of thinking in terms of finish lines is very sort of like yeah, it's just a manner of speaking about it, just for convenience, try to kind of box things, because sometimes it makes sense in terms of, okay, we can now kind of try to focus on that or that or that, but it is a just beautiful, endless sort of unfolding that yeah, if not thought of in terms of finishing lines, it's kind of much more enjoyable in some way, and kind of more just from the place of curiosity, and kind of like looking, just wanting to know, wanting to see, rather than hoping that finally there will be this place that I will have no thought, I'll have no desires, I'll be because we are biological beings, and as long as we are in this we eat, we shit, we it's so dynamic in a way that it has to have some components of friction, it's not that it's ever I think we were talking with Angelo recently about it, that there's this beautiful YouTube video of this little cell that dies, and in this video, the kind of how life is defined is when things are being kept away from equilibrium. Maybe Angelo will say it better. It's not my first language, but anyway, it's a beautiful kind of description that life is kind of staying away from equilibrium in a way, and our mind kind of wants equilibrium, because as long as we have something that is very straight and kind of plain and kind of smooth, and we can glide only ever after. That's the sort of mind's version, but of liberation. But liberation is actually letting go of wanting anything to be any other way than it's right now, and seeing through, whatever is still standing kind of apart from it. And Angelo put the link in the description for this little video, so please check it out if afterwards. If it's just really beautiful.
Right. Thank you.
Yeah. So that was.
No, I appreciate that, and there is. I understand about equilibrium or homeostasis as a biological being, but there's also, I should say, an exhaustion on the spiritual seeking path that has laid in the last few years. And I really, I'm not going to live forever. I'm going to be 69 years old shortly. And so I think, well, what is all this for? I spend all this time and all this money, pursuing, what is it now? So thank you, though, for the clarification about there's always inquiry and there's always curiosity and there's always equilibrium, because I think that's very helpful to this mind anyway. Thank you very much. It's nice to meet you.
Likewise.
Thank you.
Yeah, so I put the link under chat. If anyone wants to watch the video, just cut and paste it, because obviously this will close when we're done. Cut and paste it. It's like a 7-minute video. It's really fun. So, yeah. So my response, or my reflection of what you had said, is a couple things, and Kogen touched on all of it. But one is, when you mentioned that you had watched the different videos of Kevin Chanelek and so forth, so you're familiar with the desire and aversion, that one, I think for you, I just sense it. That's going to be pretty valuable. It's so the non-dual stuff is fun, right? It's really fun to try to watch boundaries dissolve and try to experience a world without form and all that. It's kind of psychedelic. It's kind of science fiction. It's kind of, wild, and, there's an intellectual component that's really sort of interested in it as well. And then the desire and ill will, or desire and aversion aspect, is like none of that. It's not fun. It's not sexy. It's not psychedelic. It's really uncomfortable. It's the last place you want to go, but it pays huge dividends. It pays huge dividends. And the formula that we laid out in that video 4 and 5, I think it's called The End of Suffering, or How to End Suffering, interview with Kevin Chanelek 4 and 5. But the what we lay out there, the formula is very simple, and it works well to track down reactivity. The reactivity, there's other ways to do it, and sometimes it sort of dissolves itself. But the reactivity is probably the poorest, or the most overlooked, or the poorest, or most poorly addressed aspect of this. And it can sneak in even in really late stage realization when people just don't address it, or, and it's because we have a lot of avoidance around it. We don't want to feel it. We don't want to feel that stuff. We don't want to look at it. We don't want to realize that we can't insist upon the world being the way we want it right now, and it doesn't actually do it. We don't want to see that. We don't want to see that we have zero control over reality just because we think it should be different than it is. And we can get that intellectually, but to really dissolve the deep connections that we have that believe that believe it such that it creates our processing and gets those polarized thoughts going, that takes some work often. I think you'll find huge benefit in it, really. The underlying, like, frustration, a little bit of impatience there, that kind of stuff. And, I'm almost 70 now, like, that's just pointing right to it for me. And you'll find that the non-dual experience will take a quantum leap, because non-dual is kind of on a gradient, I think, largely. You can experience it periodically. You can experience it episodically. You can even have a shift where, like you described, the subject and object aren't there, but it can only happen in one sense. Sometimes it can happen in sound, but in the visual field, it's still very much subject-object experience. Even all of that can collapse. You can have a subject-object experience being completely not identifiable in any sense field, and it still feels damn well like there's a physical world. So deeper realization of non-duality, like the illusion of a physical world, just goes away. And it's very different, and they kind of have a different feel to them, and it's a much more profound realization. But what can keep that at bay sometimes is the reactivity. Okay, so with all of that said, even when that physical world the apparent external physical world is completely dissolved and seen through to be an illusion. And then I can't tell you what replaces it because it's not in time and it's not in space, but it's also not nothing. It's impossible to talk about, but it's rather intimate. And it's quite a discovery. Perhaps we could call it Brahman or something, you know, but even then, that's not the end of the self structure. And which seems odd, but the self structure doesn't have anywhere to hide. Then it doesn't have anywhere to be, and ultimately, when the external world is dissolved, the illusion of the external world is dissolved, then by like a domino knocking another domino down, ultimately that internal world is going to dissolve as well, and that's an illusion because there is no internal anything when you realize non-dual. But again, it's just a habit of mind. Even though you've realized it, the habits can be strong, and we can still tend to pull inward somewhere to, you know, wherever. And just the mere ability to do that, the mere functioning of that, even periodically, creates this kind of, I think my video that released today talks about this. It's kind of this inversion. It feels like an inner world is the best way I can say it, but it feels like something you've always wanted, you wanted to maintain, you've defended, but it's absolutely and completely unnecessary, and it's always distorting. 100% of the time it's distorting in nature. That's the self structure. That's deep realization though. That's beyond non-dual, actually. Now they can go at the same time, and this can happen all kinds of different ways for different people. So don't get too caught up in the weeds of like mechanics, but I would definitely look into the reactivity aspect and just really track it down because it's very slippery stuff. And in my non-dual playlist also has explorations for like form and perception and all that.
Thank you so much.
Yep.
It's a real pleasure to meet you.
Nice meeting you.
Thank
You
you.
look great for almost 70, by the way. Hope I look that good.
Thank you. That's kind.
Yeah. Right. Let's go. Matt's iPhone is coming. Oh wait, we're at time. But Matt, you want to do a real quickie?
You are mute, Matt.
Okay, sorry about that. Full start. Shame told me that I couldn't come back for a second time. And I was like, you know what? I'm doing it.
Good for
I
you.
was just investigating the sound field, and I just wanted to report what I found and just see if I'm kind of on the right track. It instinctively feels right, but since I'm here, I might as well check. I was sitting with my eyes shut, listening to sounds, and there was a sense of the distance of sound, some far away, some close, and I was kind of then sort of aware of the I am that seemed to be receiving, the recipient of these sounds at various distances. And I was kind of noticing that the sounds seemed to be separate to this presence, to this I am. And then just it popped up naturally, the question, are these sounds separate from this? Is that true? And suddenly it like popped, and it was like my sense of self expanded, and it was like, no, those sounds are happening within me. Like the sounds are, it's not like even like they're happening within me. They are me. It's all me. Like it was completely the opposite way around to how I had it. Like
Beautiful.
is
it like that right now?
Yeah, it's like
good. Stay there.
Yeah.
Just keep investigating. Go take a walk, look at things, hear things, feel things. Just keep doing that. And that line of inquiry that you just did, you can reproduce it if you need to, or you can just let it go automatically. But it's kind of like a Venn diagram where it's like sound and perception of sound and self. They're like overlapping a little bit, and all of a sudden they're like, whoop, there's no two circles anymore. It's like that. Your description's clear. So you don't need validation for this. Obviously, it's self-validating and obvious.
Yeah.
Just go spend a week enjoying this.
Yeah. So cool.
It
So
is.
cool. Thank you.
I'm happy
Thank
for it.
you. Thank you.
I'm glad you overcame shame. That was a great one.
I know. It was like the stories of like, oh my God, he's going to think you're just such a terrible person for dominating and blah, 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 and all this stuff. And I'm like, I'm not buying, I'm just going to be with this heart racing.
Good for you, man.
Thank you, my friend. Thank you so
You're
much.
welcome, my friend. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Kogen, you have any last words?
No, I think I was just wanting to say that I loved you popping up again and your eyes, bright and something loving about you. So it was a treat for us too.
Mwah. Thank you, everybody.
Y'all take care. Okay, thank you, everyone. This will be up online in the next couple days. I might put it in 2 different parts. And again, if anyone sees this online and wants to join Double Barrel, you just sign up for membership and do it at the sustaining member level. Thank you all. Much love to everybody.
Thank you, everyone.
Oh, thank you, Kogen.
Everyone.
Bye.
Bye.